Hello and welcome to DAX Wednesdays, our bi-weekly video episode on DAX formulas and how to use them. In today's episode, we're going to discuss the DAX function called sample. This DAX function belongs to the statistical family of DAX functions. Let's switch to Power BI for the demonstration. Over here, we have a data set open with a table called orders. It has approximately 51,000 rows with 5 columns. The first column being the customer segment, a column called sales, which is nothing but the quantity multiplied by price per unit, and the last column is order date. Now, if we were to sort this order date in the ascending order, we can see the dates range from January 2012 to December 2015. So we are talking about a 4-year date range. So what does the sample DAX function lets you do? Sample will let you take a subset of this table, which can have, for instance, let's say 5 rows or 7 rows. 51,290 rows are way too many rows. With sample DAX function, you can have a small subset or the subset of with the number you desire. Now, how can we use this DAX function? You have to go to the table tools tab over here, still remaining in the table view, and click on new table. Now we'll call this new table as sample table. Now we type in sample. Now sample DAX function takes 3 arguments. First of all, it's asking for the size. So size is nothing but sample size. How many rows do you want to be included in your sample table? For our demonstration, we will use sample size of, let's say, 7. Put in a comma. Next, the function is asking for the table argument. So we need to identify which table we should be taking the sample from. So our table name is orders. So just type in orders. Now there are 2 types of sample data. The first type is a random sample. Just to explain to you what we mean by random selection, over here we have, for instance, 7 footballs. So if we were to select 3 randomly among these 7, so it can be either 1 to 3 or 2 4 5 or 3 6 7. So the 3 footballs that we'll select will be totally random. There is no order to it. So that's what we mean by random sample. Now I'll show you how to do a random sample subset of our orders table. In order to have a random subset, the third argument that we're going to put in our DAX function has to be 0, like this. We close this bracket. So now you can see Power BI has returned us 7 rows among the 51,290 rows that we saw earlier in the orders table. So it has returned us 7 rows which are totally random. So for instance, you can see over here we have rows that fall somewhere in the middle of the table, not necessarily at the end. So this is one way of how you can create the random sample table. Now I just wanted to show you what happens if instead of 7 I put in 6.4. If I put in 6.4, Power BI will round off this number to the lower integer, which is 6 in this case. So now if I have to put in 6.4, it will return to me 6 rows. 1 2 3 4 5 6. Now what happens if I put this number to 6.5? If I put 6.5, Power BI now has returned to me 7. So if it is more than or equal to 0.5, Power BI will return the next integer, which is 7 in this case. So it has returned me 7 rows. The second kind of sample is order by. If we go back to Power BI for 1 second, I'll explain to you what it means. So if you remember, for the third argument, we had put in 0, which returned us a random sample subset. Now, if we were to take this out, and if I were to put in order date. So for this sample DAX function, the third argument is orders date, the column order date in the orders table. So now it will return a table subset which is ordered by the order date column. So over here, it has returned to us, if we have to sort in ascending order, whenever we use the order by argument as in the third argument of the sample DAX function, what it will do, it will take the first row and the last row. So the first row will be the first among the 7, the last row will be the 7th among the 7 selected for our sample data set, and those which are in the middle will be evenly distributed. So if we were to take our football example, so what does the order by argument lets you do? For instance, among these 7, imagine these 7 is the global data set, which is equivalent to the 51,290 rows that we saw in our table. And among this global data set, we need to select 3 footballs, which will be our sample data set. So if I were to order this sample table by a certain column such as order date and select only 3 rows or 3 footballs among the 7, what it will do is, it first of all, it will take the first football, the last among the 3 will be the 7th football, and the second selection in that sample table will be evenly distributed, which will be the 4th one. Now instead of having a subset of 3, what happens if there's a subset of 4? It will take the first football, the last selection will be the 7th football, the second will be the 3rd football, and the third will be the 5th football. So this is one constraint that we have if we put in the argument of order by as a third argument rather than putting 0. If you want to have a random sample, you need to put in 0 in this third argument. So this was our demonstration of the sample DAX function. Do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment about what you thought about this video. I will see you next time.